Everyone, Bitcoin is an accelerating train. And so I've been trying to think of an analogy of how do I describe the shenanigans people try to pull off and ultimately outsmart themselves. And so I came up with an analogy. I hope you like it, and I'll try to use it as sort of a framing. Okay, so imagine there's a train, and this train is going to the California Gold Rush. Back at the beginning of the California Gold Rush, when you could walk out and literally pick gold off the ground and get rich and all of that. And you have got your ticket on the train, and you've boarded. You find yourself in the very first car on the train, and the train leaving the station, and it's just barely starting to pull out of the station. And it's a super, super, super long train. Okay, so in this analogy, let's think about this. Give me one second. So in this analogy, let's assume that the tickets to the train are more expensive at the front of the train and cheaper at the back of the train. The reason I'm using this is it's the equivalent of like, what price did you buy Bitcoin at? Um, and the train is accelerating. Now, I'm sitting somewhere toward the front of the train, and Bitcoin is, I'm here, I'm your Sherpa, we're on the train, and everybody's happy. Well, as the train slowly starts to accelerate, some people have the bright idea, which is, hey, I know we're on the train. I know it took a lot of work to get on the train to understand Bitcoin and all that sort of stuff. And we're officially on the train and everything's good. Here's a bright idea. What if we jump off the train and then let a few seconds go by, and then we try to jump back on the train at a car that's farther back, and therefore get a slightly cheaper ticket price because the tickets are cheaper the farther back in the train. Again, I'm trying to use an analogy here of somebody who, they sell Bitcoin at 87,000 a coin, thinking they'll buy it back at 62,000 a coin, and then they'll have a lower cost basis, meaning they'll own more Bitcoin for the same dollars, and they'll still be safely on the train on their way to the California Gold Rush, and everybody's happy. So people are constantly trying to do this, and they are constantly failing. I mean, failing all the time, constantly. Do not do this, ladies and gentlemen. Once you understand Bitcoin, buy the Bitcoin and stay on the trade. Buy the Bitcoin, stay on the train. There are a million ways to outsmart yourself and end up poor that do not involve just staying on the train. But people are constantly trying to do this. They're trying to constantly see if they can maybe, it seems expensive today, so I'll sell it, and then I'll plan to buy it back tomorrow, and then I'll have a lot more Bitcoin. And here's the problem: the train is accelerating, so the probability that you're going to get off the Bitcoin train and get on it farther back in the train at a cheaper ticket price without the train leaving you by the side is very low. The probability that you're going to pull that off is very low. So do not try to do that. So I have had people tell me they, and the same people try to do this. They'll buy Bitcoin, it'll run up from one price to another price, then they'll sell it at the higher price, thinking they're being smart, and then they'll realize they missed out on a huge amount of the upside. So I wanted to share in this train analogy, because what always happens is, so you're on the train, right? I'm up there on the train, Bitcoin Sherpa, trying to help everybody out, and all these people keep hopping off the train and then trying to get back on the train at a farther back car to get a cheaper ticket price. And I'm like, people, stop. We're going to the California Gold Rush. You're on the train. You're going to get there. The price you paid for Bitcoin is fine. In the future, when we get there, you won't care. Nobody cares whether I bought Bitcoin $9,100 a coin, or if it was $10,400 a coin, which is the equivalent of 91,000 versus 104,000. Stop playing games. Just stay on the train. So people are constantly trying to do this. So in my personal experience, I know people who have sold Bitcoin $100 a coin, planning to buy it back when it was cheaper, $100 a coin. They sold it at $100 a coin, and then it tripled in price to 300 a coin, and it was too expensive. So they didn't want to buy it back because they felt like it was too expensive. And they had more than 100 Bitcoin. So they had an amount of Bitcoin that today would be worth more than $10 million. $10 million of Bitcoin, but they sold it for $10,000, 1% of its current price, because they were planning to jump back on the train at a later point when the ticket price was cheaper and have more Bitcoin. And instead of having more than 100 Bitcoin, more than $10 million of Bitcoin, they have $10,000 of Bitcoin. They have 1% as much Bitcoin as they would have had because they forgot to jump back on the train. They missed the timing. Once they realized they had missed it, the price had tripled. They did not want to spend $30,000 for Bitcoin that they had just sold for $10,000. And they didn't want to buy back 33 Bitcoin for $10,000, which would be worth $3.3 million. So they could have bought $3.3 million worth of Bitcoin, but they didn't. They thought that was expensive. And so they just didn't buy it at all. And so now they have not Bitcoin. So I've had people do that. I've had people these are not people, thankfully, let me say, none of the people that I have coached and mentored about Bitcoin have made any of these mistakes. So all the stories I'm sharing with you right now are people that got into Bitcoin before I did, or people that got into Bitcoin independent of me without my advice. To my knowledge, nobody has had a bad experience with Bitcoin that was coached or mentored by me. I'm not aware of a single bad story. So these are all the stories I'm telling you are stories that happened independent of me or before I got into Bitcoin, which is also independent of me. But, I've met with somebody who at one point had between 3,000 and 4,000 Bitcoin, valued today between 300 and $400 million. But they traded it all out for Dogecoin, and Dogecoin went way down, and they sold it, and they missed out on all of that. So could have had 300 to $400 million, and they have a few tens of thousands instead as a result of their Dogecoin. They got off this. The analogy here is that they got off the Bitcoin train thinking that there was a faster, better train that was also going to the California gold rush and would somehow take them there faster through an alternate route. Well, Dogecoin is not taking you anywhere you want to go. So they missed out on hundreds of millions of dollars because they got off the Bitcoin train and onto the Dogecoin train. And the Dogecoin train ran their money straight into the ground. So I've talked to multiple people who have gotten scammed out of tens of thousands of dollars each, tens of thousands of dollars each because they had Bitcoin. One of them had as many as 9.5 Bitcoin, which today would be worth $9.5 million. They had as many as, or sorry, it'd be worth, yeah, it was it'd be worth more, 950,000. Sorry. They had 9.5 Bitcoin worth almost $1 million, and they sent it to someone that offered to trade Bitcoin on their behalf. And in the promise, of course, being get off the Bitcoin train, let me get you on a better special train that's faster, and all will go well in your world. Well, of course, it was a scammer, and multiple people have reached out to me. Multiple, not one, but multiple people have reached out to me, each of them having been scammed out of tens of thousands of dollars of Bitcoin that they bought at prices a fraction of today's price, a tiny fraction of today's price, because they sent that Bitcoin to someone who offered to trade it on their behalf to get them more Bitcoin. And they lost it all because they ended up getting scammed. So get on the Bitcoin train and stay on the Bitcoin train. Do not get off the Bitcoin train planning to buy it back at a lower price. Again, don't get off the train hoping that you're going to jump back on the train at a train car that's farther back, that's cheaper, because there's a good chance you're going to jump off that train and realize that it's going too fast and you can't jump back on. And you're going to realize this train left you. The train where Bitcoin was 100,000 a coin is gone, and by the time you decide you found a new train that's going to get you to the same destination, well, the ticket price went up by 25% or 50% or 200%. Don't get off the Bitcoin train. Every other train is either not going to get you there at all, or it's going to get you there with a bunch of bumps and bruises and not nearly as fast. Nothing can get you anywhere as fast as the Bitcoin train. So do not get off the Bitcoin train planning to get back on at a cheaper price. Do not send your Bitcoin to anyone who offers to trade your Bitcoin. Just get on the Bitcoin train, stay on the Bitcoin train, and whatever price you paid for Bitcoin, that's fine. If it goes down, buy more. But do not get off the Bitcoin train. Everybody who gets off the Bitcoin train regrets it, and ends up worse off and poorer. Stay on the Bitcoin train, everyone. Don't sell your Bitcoin.